Video. Yes. So it's a response video to the holiday, and I'll play some of his video eventually. You know, got to be the most fucktard on the internet. I mean, even religious kooks know that there's a difference between, spending an eternity in heaven and spending an eternity in hell. And Hathladay's argument is that all distinctions between heaven and hell are arbitrary. They don't exist as reasonable distinctions. You wouldn't categorize things based on those kind of differences. So we're really always, as always, we're returning to the cupcake versus nail in the eye scenario. There's two forms of a possible Hathladay. There's Hathladay on cupcakes, and there's Hathladay on nail in the eye. And he's basically saying that unless he's Hathladay, he can't tell the difference between those two states as a ethical or rational or moral or decent or desirable or sensible. Sensible, that would be the right word. So the same would go. So if it's an inimendum, big penis, of course. Hathladay, small penis. If it's an amendum, somehow he can't see how these two states are completely different. Happy? I don't even need a cupcake because I have a big penis. And nail in the eye. Same thing. We might as well just say, So there's other aspects. There's, long hair. There's other things that these things have. These two things are not identical. Even if I took the nail out of his eye, he's still not exactly the same as this one. I can make distinctions or categories that are in fact meaningless. But if I'm going to do something like ethical, and I'm going to say, I'm going to create an event, I'm going to cause something like Frankenstein, and that's what we do every time we make a decision, right? Is we're going to create something. Well, I have these choices. I have nail in the eye kind of choices, and I have cupcake kind of choices. I have smiley faces or frowny faces, and happy or sad. And so it would make sense rationally, because I know sad is bad, frowny face bad, that if I was going to create a world, I'd create this world. I wouldn't bother with any of that nail in the eye shit. The nail in the eye shit ruins the equation, breaks the category. If I want to make the category be something good, then I can't have harm or bad in it. Then it's not the category good. So that's what ethics is, right? I want to make the category good. And so good is going to be something like this, not something like this. Nail in the eye, small penis. Nail in the eye, big penis, but it doesn't matter because he has a nail in his eye. Doesn't matter what size your penis is then. This guy's also kind of fat. Anyway, just saying, getting a little chubby. Wrong kind of chubby. Bad chubby. Yeah, good chubby and bad chubby. It's got some bad chubby. So anyway, this whole, he doesn't think doing this is patronizing and insulting to people's intelligence. Doing this, whatever this is, demonstration thing that's just so fucking obvious. A 5-year-old could figure this one out, right? These flashcards, a 5-year-old could figure this out. Yes, me want big penis. Me no want small penis and nail in my eye. Not a desirable state. So, I mean, you can analogize this in so many different ways. I mean, I could have just held up 2 virtual kittens to demonstrate an ethical dilemma or an ethical circumstance. There's 2 kittens, Jerry and Jimmy. Little cute kittens, meow, 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 meow. And, the decision has to be made. You can only have one kitten. One kitten has to be thrown into the cold to shiver and die. And one kitten stays and gets comforted and cared for and baby talked to. Yes, if they're just two kittens, there's nothing to base the decision on. But certainly if I said something like, well, here, there's no necessity that the cat get thrown out, but I just am lazy, so I want to throw one out. And I'm going to make the distinction based on what cat was born in my house. So this kitten was born in my house, Jimmy. So fuck Jerry. I just throw him out in the cold and let him die. It's just irrational. It doesn't have any rational basis. The two kittens are the kittens. What I think of them is irrelevant. They are what they are. This doesn't matter where they were born. That only matters to me. It doesn't have any matter in the real world. It doesn't have any matter in the categories that the cats are fitting in. It's stupid. It's an illogical approach to the problem. There's got to be some better reason to make a distinction, or as I argue, you just protest and say, I shouldn't have this responsibility. Why should I be determining things' fates like that? Why should I have to make a decision that harms something? I mean, you all find that acceptable because that's the way life is. I don't find it acceptable. I'm saying it's an unacceptable circumstance. You think it's okay to cause harm. I don't. So until there's a game where harm isn't something I have to cause, I don't want to play. I don't want to be forced to play ever again. I don't want to be brought back to this shithole by you fucktards ever again. It's just a stupid game for stupid, cruel morons. Anyway. Can you understand? Or is that all just too complicated? Fucking retard. So anyway, I'll play some of this. Just like I said, it's incomprehensible mush. His point. We're not golf balls. We're not in the category stuff. We have distinctive qualities. There's a difference between plastic bottle, sentient brain. If I have to explain that to anybody on this planet, they're too stupid. You should be in a retard asylum. If you can't tell that there's a substantial difference between the welfare of a plastic bottle and the welfare of a feeling, sentient, living creature, you belong in a kook house. You're dangerously stupid. Anyway, and fat.
Spears. Spherical.
So he's playing this silly, like I said, he doesn't think this is insulting my fucking intelligence, wasting my motherfucking time. Look, I can find lots of things that are round. Who cares? What does that have to do with the difference between feeling creatures and non-feeling creatures? Oh, that's right. Nothing! Consciousness is an event, retard.
Spherical. That's all the balls. Spherical.
And this demonstrates what besides you can waste a preposterous amount of money on stupid toys.
Oh, but wait. This is kind of spherical. But pokey, like pointy.
Well, it looks like it has two flat sides. They don't have any pokey on it, so I guess it's not spherical.
Spiky. Spikiness is a bit like anti-ball. You know, in a way it's spherical, but like anti-spherical.
Right, and it's like I said, what does this have to do with any ethical question you've ever had to decide in your life? Nothing.
The smoothness is destroyed in this thing. There's some kind of quality of another one.
Yeah, there's a quality. There's intelligent humans and retarded humans. Intelligent, retarded. We can make those kind of distinctions. Sometimes it's important, like who's going to drive the bus, the intelligent one or the retarded one. But it really doesn't matter if, you know, it's time to eat poo. Well, then it's probably better to be a retard if it's time to eat poo.
Yeah. I think these are not balls. These are...
I think, again, these categories don't really have anything to do with what you think. They have to do with real structural differences between things. How you think about that doesn't really matter, because the character of it is going to exist regardless of what you think. If you can't tell the difference between this Sharpie pen and a kitten, it's not the pen's fault or the kitten's fault. You just suck at measuring categories, at defining distinctions. If you can't see the difference in your brain, if there isn't a whole bunch of structural triggers that make it easy for you to identify the difference between Sharpie pen and kitten, you are really, 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 really stupid.
These are these definitely not spheres. Not spheres. Only things that are really spheres. See, look at that. I mean, can you see?
Again, this is useful how? We can't tell the difference between frog, dog, bird, human. Yeah, we can make categorical distinctions between these things, but they still have to be argued as evidence. You have to somehow say, if you're going to say it doesn't feel anything even though it has a brain, well then you have to explain mechanically how feeling requires this, this, and this. You have to explain how you know. You have to defend your argument of meaningful distinction. And again, this is about meaningful distinctions. This is about the fact that we know that nail in the eye and the cupcake thing, that those are very different conditions of sentient material, and that those different configurations of sentient mind, brain, are a certain value. I would argue the only value, but it's certainly in the category value is the distinction between those states, conditions, arrangements of neurology. You fucking idiot. I mean, I'm only saying that for the 148th time.
It's kind of spherical, but it's, although it's on, I think it's on the inside, but it's trying not to be spherical. It's trying
It's
to
just wasting my
rigid
time.
lines sort of feel to it.
I mean,
And the geometry of triangles it's telling me about, yeah. It's telling me that I want to be triangular. So that's not a sphere. It's not spheres. We can get rid of these ones. Yeah, definitely not spheres.
so the point is, he comes up with a category that's not specific enough. And so now he's playing the game. First he played the inclusion game because it's not a specific category. And now he's playing the exclusion game because it's not a specific category. Because he didn't establish a specific category. I mean, if I say fat, there's, you know, your kind of fat. And then there's, you know, I got like 3 extra pounds. You know, so I mean, technically I'm fat from my standards. But it's a different kind of fat, isn't it? yeah. It's difference between like fat cubed and fat squared. We can tell the difference. But it requires us to say, this is the specific definition of fat, you fathead.
Spheres. And I'm saying with this, look at this.
Again, sentience is not a confusing category. You can't mess it up. Things with brains, things without brains would be a simple way to do it. Right? I mean, for the broad category.
This wants to be hexagonal. It's not. It's
clearly just a sphere with tiny little markings on it. So, frankly, I'd say yes, it's pretty spherical, retard.
Well, it's a soccer ball. It's actually made of hexagons and pentagons. I think it's called a truncated.
It actually isn't any of that shit. It's obviously poorly manufactured. Got a huge machine mark in the middle of it. It's just melted plastic, retard.
Icosahedron. So it's a ball. It's a football, but it's not a sphere really. It's not trying to be a sphere. So we can take these up, and we can have a separate.
All right, well, whatever. You're going to just keep doing this? Is that all you're going to just keep doing?
The geometry type trying to be spheres. Okay. The geometry type trying to be. And we've got the.
Right. So again, this is Hotliday who's complaining that somehow you're confusing my arguments with insulting, patronizing crap. This isn't insulting, patronizing crap. You just spent 8 fucking minutes wasting my fucking time with fucking goddamn silly games, you fucking cunt.
The spiky trying to be spheres, but never really being spheres. Yeah.
Oh, you're just going to keep doing it? I mean, one example isn't enough? You're just going to have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it when the example isn't even applicable to this circumstance, which is there's not a single ethical question you could ever make analogous to this silly game you're playing. We know what feeling things are. We know what fucking harm is. We see it every fucking day. You can see a poor person walking on a garbage mound picking out their breakfast, and you can say, yes, that's harm. That's not a good thing. We understand that fucking shit, you retard. Except for assholes like you who want to play this goddamn game, that somehow this equation isn't obvious, that this isn't an obvious bad thing.
I mean, these are really smooth. It really feels nice, but it's just got these...
I mean, you just can't get tsunami'd hard enough, you fucking cunt. Playing this silly goddamn game that somehow this has something to do with harm in the universe. No, it really doesn't, jackass.
This abomination of a thick manufacturing line.
Yeah, well, that was on your other one too, jackass. So why don't you put all the cheaply manufactured spheres in a separate category for the irrelevant purpose of not making a point? You fucking creepy, cruddy, crappy fucktard.
Which is really gritty, and I don't think those are spheres anymore.
Let's move ahead. He's just going to keep looking in his bucket. Let's just jump ahead.
Feels better than this.
All right, let's just keep doing. He's just going to keep playing this game.
Is worthy more than any other distinction.
Okay, so no distinction is worthy. Yeah, so they're okay. Then I'm trying to get to the.
I'm just undoing everything I've done.
Good.
Maybe the distinctions.
So 10 minutes of nonsense to say, I don't think there's any difference between nail in the eye and happy cupcake eating. We're back to that argument. He can't see the categorical difference between miserable and happy.
That I make when I form my categories. Maybe they're just arbitrary and just popping in my...
Right. So again, the argument is that somehow it's arbitrary for somebody to value sentience, to value sensation as an event in the universe, to say a sensation is an important event. So even the crazy religious fucktards, I don't know of a single religion that isn't talking about some kind of happy place versus a sad place as your fate in eternity. Okay, that it's about something called suffering, all right, and joy. These are the important values, fucking cunt. And we all know it because we all experience it every fucking minute of our lives as a feeling organism. This is just too fucking obvious. Again, you're too fucking retarded. If I was controlling the Great Britons, I would have you in a kook house because you're a stupid motherfucker. So stupid you shouldn't even be allowed to walk down the sidewalk because you don't know the other things walking around you are feeling things that can be harmed.
Mine. With no real logic to it at all.
Right, there's no logic to me personally experiencing sensation and understanding the difference between having a cupcake and a nail in the motherfucking cunt eye. There's no distinction. Arbitrary.
Maybe I can find...
Why do you disguise this fucking argument about something? You keep talking about categories and all these other stuff being broken. The only thing that's broken is your fucking idiotic brain. That you can't make these distinctions. That you can't identify the substantial difference between these obviously different things.
The distinctions that I want to find. Maybe no distinction.
This is a guy who will defend nepotism. So he thinks that distinction, the fact that it's my child, that matters. The fact that it's a child doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. So he actually thinks, not that he has an emotional bigotry, and just admit it, but instead he's going to say, the real value is my perception of the myness. It's mine. And there's absolutely no value to its welfare. That's just an emotional bullshit of mine. So that's just part of my love thing, that I love things and it's all about what I feel and what happens to me. And yes, it just nonsensically makes me feel good if my son feels good, but that's just nonsensical. That's what he's basically saying. How his son actually feels is irrelevant. All that really matters is how he feels about how his son feels. So if he felt good, if his son was miserable, that would mean it's good that his son is miserable. That's how fucking retarded this sociopathic, there's a word for somebody who's this egomaniacal, this so fucktarded that he can't understand that the universe is happening outside of him. That he isn't the center of the universe and that he doesn't define what something is. He comes up with a stupid description that has nothing to do with the reality because he can't seem to do categories.
Is worthy more than any other distinction.
Well, again, the distinction of big penis is important, but not terribly. The distinction of nail in the eye versus any other quality is obviously more important. Is by the evidence of certain positive experience. I've personally tasted it, therefore I know it as a fact. I personally had sex with feelings. I've been intimate with them. I know them personally. I've personally done all the experiments necessary. You can't argue that there's no difference between cupcake and nail in the eye. Retard. No substantial difference. More substantial than bald, stupid, ugly head versus hairy head. Yes, that's sort of irrelevant. By comparison.
Maybe if I decide spheres are the best, and then I'm going to change my mind and say, oh, it's not quite a sphere.
So again, this is an argument in the context of defining ethics, and he's saying there's something ambiguous about our ability to identify things worthy of care, consideration, respect, courtesy, not being run over casually, not being harmed casually.
Yeah. So in Mendel's, I doubt who's going to watch this far. It's crazy. categorizations to point out.
To point out, right, you think you actually made the argument that we can't categorize, that I can't tell the difference between a white man and a black man, or I can't tell the difference between somebody who has 2 eyes and somebody who has 1 eye. I can't tell the difference. Fatty. I can't tell the difference between big penis and micro penis. Yeah, I can.
The obvious that this categories are made by distinctions. Distinctions are arbitrary.
Again, they're not arbitrary. They're facts of the thing itself, its condition. Sentience is a condition that hunks of matter are in. They have brains, they're alive, then they feel. That's the way it works, asshole. And they don't do that because I'm watching them do it. They do it without me watching.
Insights into things. Distinctions are real.
Well, you just said they're not. You just said you can't do it. It's not possible to make the categories that define the distinctions. Yes, you can.
But the choosing of them to the way you categorize, you know, is completely arbitrary.
Well, again, he says it's completely arbitrary. If I gave him a square cube, he knows it's not sphere. So that one's obvious. So again, he's just negating the fact that, okay, there's some things that if you don't make specific enough descriptions, like it's made of metal, or it has a density of such and such, or it has a mass of such and such, or a size of such and such, or a radius of such and such. If you don't make distinctions, yes, then your category will be sloppy. But even with a undistinctive categorization, even by just using the word sphere, you could know cube wouldn't be there. Because we know that sphere and cube were basically words invented to make distinctions between those two things. Just like black and white almost.
For anybody who wants to say, this is the bucket that matters, somebody can say, but that's just a case of a bit.
Somebody could say it and you just make a rational argument explaining how that's absolute crap. So if somebody says the important thing in life is how flexible plastic is, and I say the important thing in life is how feeling a brain is, I can make a rational argument. I don't think they can. I don't think they have any hope of making a rational argument in defense of their theory that how flexible this bottle is the important thing in the universe, and how feeling brains are isn't important. Idiot.
Take a generic bucket, right? Mendham says...
He just keeps doing it again. In Mendham says, in Mendham says, in Mendham says, in Mendham says. No, he doesn't. Liar.
Sentience matters. I say living matters.
Well, okay, so again, the argument is mute, because there we go. This is what we're really arguing about. It's not the categories that are the problem. It's not making distinctions. It's who can make a valid argument. You say it doesn't matter how things feel, it just matters that they're alive. Well, I say no, it matters entirely. The quality of the life is all that matters. Making a planet of slaves, they would be alive and living and blah blah blah, would not be a productive thing to do. It would be fucking stupid.
Living things, yeah. Whatever the case all along against Mendham's philosophy has always been arbitrary distinctions.
Again, he keeps saying it's an arbitrary distinction. Nail in the eye and cupcake is arbitrary. There's no real, obvious, rationally based, logically understandable distinction between something in horrible pain and something not in horrible pain. That category doesn't have any real substance or meaning. And I think, quite obviously, I can rationally defend that categorization. I'm not going to edit this video, that's for sure. So I took care of that. So we're almost done. But yeah, that in Mendham says that he's already defended why it's obvious, and he's already defended how perfect my evidence is, because I've experienced consciousness. I've done it. I've done the experiment personally, there's no doubt in my mind, and I think just like there's no doubt in most sentient being minds, even religious kooks know hell be bad, heaven be good.
Are being made by him based upon the choosing of him. That is important.
Again, we're just arguing about semantics. He doesn't think the religious people are being rational. The only element of religion that I could argue is rational is the idea of recognizing torture as being a bad thing and pleasure being a good thing. That's the only thing they're doing that's rational. And he's calling that the irrational element. So this whole silly game, as if this argument is about some mechanism of categorization, is just such a lie. It's still just about the difference between a cupcake and a goddamn nail in your eye, and the fact that you don't think there's reason to believe those two things are substantially different. And I think there's a ton of evidence.